Hello and welcome to this tutorial. I'm Adrian from the Freakish Lemon video podcast, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about reading crochet charts, some basic symbols, and how to read charts written for rows and written for in the round, expanding outwards. This tutorial assumes that you have some basic understanding of crochet stitches and how to create them. If you do not have this understanding, please go see a previous tutorial of mine about the basics of crochet. Most crochet patterns at least start you out with the directions completely written out. Chain 25 stitches. In the second stitch from your hook, do a single crochet stitch, single crochet to the end of the row, that kind of thing. Some crochet patterns also include charts, and if you're used to looking at knitting charts, crochet charts can be a little daunting. Knitting charts are much like this cutting mat, grids typically. Crochet charts are a little bit different. The first thing I will go over is a couple of common crochet symbols. I'm going to be doing basic symbols for basic stitches, just to familiarize you with how these actually work. So the first thing most crochet patterns start with is a chain stitch. This is symbolized with a little oval. You're also going to use your single crochet stitches. That's symbolized with an X. Your half doubles are going to be a T. Your doubles are going to be a T, little hash mark. Your trebles, T, 2 hatch marks. And the taller your stitch goes, the more hatch marks your T is going to have. A slip stitch is usually notated as either a dot or a little dash when you, for example, close a round. You might have a dot there or a little dash there. So we're going to actually build a simple crochet chart. Your crochet chart starts at the left-hand side to chain your starting row if you're working flat. We're going to start by charting out the first few rows of the Attic 24 granny stripe blanket. So the first thing you do in the granny stripe blanket is chain your number of stitches in multiples of 3 plus 2. So starting from the left, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And this last one is actually going to tilt up a little bit, since the next part of the direction is you're going to turn and you're going to single crochet in the second stitch from your hook. Single crochet. You're going to single crochet across the row. Each symbol in a crochet chart will correspond exactly to where that stitch should be placed. So each single crochet is hanging out with one chain stitch, except for this last chain stitch, which is turning the work. Then it says to chain 3 and do 1 double crochet in the same space. We've gone across the row. We're working in rows, so we're going to chain up 1, 2, 3, double crochet in the same space. Corresponds with that stitch. Then the directions say to skip 2, so there's 2, and then 3 double crochets in the next stitch. So 1, 2, 3. Skip 2, 3 double crochets in the next stitch. Skip 2, 3 double crochets in the next stitch. Skip 2, 2 double crochets in that last stitch. If I was drawing this better, this little chain would be just kind of tucked in there. So that's chain across, turn the work, single crochet across, up, proceed in this pattern. So if you're working from a crochet chart flat, you start at the left-hand corner, go across, and then you go up the chart, weaving back and forth as the rows go. So I don't recall precisely the next row in the directions, but it's something like chain 3, work 3 trebles in the space, or doubles. It's a UK pattern, so it says trebles. That corresponds to that space between these 2 clusters. Then you work 3 doubles in the next space. 3 doubles in the next space. 3 doubles in the next space. And then a double into this top chain. So if you were looking at this on its own and you didn't know where to start or what these symbols meant, this could be really daunting. But we know to start here, chain across, turn the work, single crochet, chain 3, double in the same stitch, skip 2, 3 clusters in 1 stitch, skip 2, 3 clusters in 1 stitch, skip 2, and so on. If you want to practice charting, find a simple crochet pattern that you already know what it's supposed to look like, and draw out the directions. The thing about crochet charts is that they will look very similar to the actual finished item. These rows are these same stitches and symbols. You can see there's 1, there's 1. There's 3 and 1, there's 3 and 1. 3 and 1, 3 and 1. So if we go by chart symbols that we know, we can interpret a pattern that already exists. This is from abc-knitting-patterns.com. So like the one we drew, we're going to start in this corner, work our way this way, and continue up the pattern with each row. This chart is also helpfully color-coded so you can see which rows are which. You can see we start with a whole bunch of chains. If you were doing this for real, you would count them out. And then you're doing 2 double crochets in the 3rd chain from your hook. You're doing 4 chains. You're skipping 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chains. And then you're doing 5 double crochets in this chain. 4 chains. 5 double crochets in this chain. 4 chains. 5 double crochets in this chain. 4 chains. 3 double crochets. On the next row, you chain 2. 3 double crochets into this space, 3 chains, 3 double crochets into this space, 3 double crochets into this space, 3 chains, 3 double crochets into this space. And you continue on in that same pattern across the row, a double crochet into the top of this chain. And you continue along the pattern that same way. So here is a double treble. It's got 3 little hash marks. These hatch marks on the double, the treble, and anything bigger indicates how many times you wrap the yarn before you go into the stitch below. So for the double crochet, you have a working loop, you wrap the yarn once, you go into the stitch below, and you finish your stitch. For the treble, you have your working loop, you wrap twice, you go into the stitch below, and then you finish your stitch. So even if you don't know precisely the name of that stitch, count the hatch marks, 1, 2, 3. That's how many times you're going to wrap before you go into the stitch below. That's for crocheting flat in rows. This is a chart for a granny square. Now we know that granny squares start from the middle and work outwards. You can also tell by the orientation of each of these stitches. Remember that these are drawn in the actual orientation that the stitches will go. So if you see a chart and all your stitches are pointing inwards, you're going to start in the middle. You can see here in this chart, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 little ovals. That's 4 chains. And then a dot. That's a slip stitch to make a circle. You've got your 1, 2, 3 chains, 2 double crochets into the circle, 2 chains, 3 double crochets into the circle, 2 chains, 3 double crochets into the circle, 2 chains, 3 double crochets into the circle, 2 chains, and then a slip stitch into that top chain. Which, you know, if you've done a granny square before, that's the basic construction of a granny square. Looks like this chart is assuming that you're breaking the yarn and you're starting with another color because there's a little slip stitch over here. So you're going to start this second row over here in this space with a slip stitch. Chain 3, 2 double crochets. You follow your symbols around the chart. Exactly the way they appear. And as you're creating the item, it will look very similar to the way this chart is laid out. I should mention that this is a granny square chart coming from simplycrochetmag.co.uk. If you want to find more granny square charts to experiment with reading charts. So once you know your basic symbols and how your chart is constructed, it's a little easier to tackle something like this. This is a chart that I found on cupofstitches.blogspot.com. I will also provide a link to this specific page where this chart is located because this person has a very detailed step-by-step chart and photograph of this particular swatch and how it's constructed. So you can definitely recognize some symbols that we've gone over in here. There's your little crochet chains, you've got doubles, you've got alternating chains and doubles, you've got doubles. These little plus signs are single crochets. Sometimes they're written as X's, sometimes they're written as plus signs. These stitches I have not gone over. Increases and decreases, crocheting through the front loop or through the back loop are a little bit different from these simple charts, but judging by the way these are shaped, you can kind of anticipate how the stitches are going to be shaped. You can see the shape of this symbol, which we don't know the name of, looks very similar to that actual point on this crocheted piece. We have some chains, we have some chains, we have some chains with single crochets, and it looks like there's 3 in one space, 3 in one space, or possibly 3 in that single chain. And once you know what each of the symbols means, it's fairly easy to visualize because the chart is built the same way that your finished item is built. So if you want to get a step-by-step on how this is actually constructed, I'll put a link in the down bar for this crochet chart. So those are my chart basics. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave a question down below. I can't promise an answer because I don't actually use charts that often, but it is a good way to practice visualizing what your piece will look like, especially if you're interested in trying any crochet design. It's a way to exactly draw out what you're doing as you're doing it, so that you can go back and work on it later. But if you do have any questions about what I've gone over so far, please leave a comment down below. If you did enjoy this tutorial, please subscribe to see more videos or thumbs up and favorite this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it.